This is an emergency. This is an emergency.
Homicides in Chicago, Illinois have surpassed the death toll of American Special Forces in Iraq.
Hey, Ptolemy.
Welcome to Chi Raq.
Chi Raq, where we at, my city?
Land of pain, misery, and strife.
Everybody here got a man banging and slanging, fighting for the flag, risking that long zip of the cadaver bag. All to the bang bang. Bang bang.
Let the record state he's not playing Rahm Emanuel. My main man, Mr. Lennix, Chicago, one of Chicago's finest. We work together back, get on the bus. My main man. He's speaking to me only a couple days ago. He's still in remorse after your Chicago Cubs got swept by the Knicks.
We didn't get swept.
Yeah, but that's Spike just paying back for all the times when Michael Jordan beat up on the Knicks.
True.
And he ate crow for the first 10 years I knew him.
Shadow Henderson, Slipper Purified, Cyclops, Mr. Wesley Snipes, Teyonah Parris, Saw First In, Dear White People, Nick Cannon, Nick always has a Brimsky to the side. Father, if you look at the film last night, his credit, spiritual advisor, consultant, and Kevin Willmott. Everybody, if it wasn't for Kevin, we would not be here. He'll tell us about it. Was his ideal 6 years ago that got us here. In fact, I never read Lysistrata.
Lysistrata.
People say it 10 different ways during the movie. It's my fault. How do you say it? So, raise your hand, say where you're from. All right, how you doing, sir?
Good morning. My name is Dan Geyer, Daily Herald. Mr. Lee, I believe it was a French critic who said that the...
What's his name? See, you can't be quoting French critics without saying who the French critic is. It could be Charles de Gaulle or Pepe Le Pew.
She said that Do the Right Thing could never be released in the United States because it would spur race riots in every major city. My question is, what's the difference between the pushback you got from that film and the pushback you're getting now?
Well, I think it's hard to make a comparison because this film has not come out yet. I mean, many Do the Right Thing. It specifically was David Denby, Jack Kroll, and Joe Klein who said that this film would incite African Americans to riot all across the country and told their white readers, pray to God this film does not open in your theater, that blood will be in my hands, that this film would stop Mayor Dinkins from being elected, the first elected African American mayor. Look it up. It's all truth. Google it. All this stuff was written about Do the Right Thing when it came out back. Released the same day as the original Batman one, Jack Nicholson, June 30th, 1989. Next.
Right here. Jim Alexander, the movie blog. Spike, my question to you is, obviously the film has so much Greek mythology to it. It's like a modern day Chicago version of a Greek myth. Is there any concern for like casual moviegoers going to the movie not understanding that concept and maybe kind of finding the dialogue off-putting or confusing?
I'm going to hand this off to Kevin Willmott.
Well, I think that Spike and I both, from the very beginning, thought that it was important to kind of really connect with the original Greek play, by Aristophanes. I think we both agreed that the style, the verse that's in the actual script play, Lysistrata, that it connects in many ways to African Americans, the long tradition of African Americans. I mean, you know, Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, both of them, early in their careers were in the play Lysistrata, and it was a big key to their success as actors later on. And so, you know, it has the verse, the actual, you know, verse from Aristophanes has a lot of connections to rap, to spoken word, to a whole tradition of African American kind of traditions in literature. And so we just thought that, you know, if people, you know, there's no reason why people won't really connect with it.
Good afternoon, or good morning, good afternoon. This question is for Mr. Lee and Father Pfleger. Spike, I think you spoke very eloquently about satire being a very valid way to address serious issues. But I'm wondering if, as you shot it, and even more particularly as you edited the film, and Father Pfleger, after you got a chance to see it, how you felt audiences might respond to the contrast between the very kind of broad...
To the what?
How audiences might respond to the very broad kind of sexual satire and the very serious, tragic elements of the film. And anyone else who wants to weigh in on that, too, I'd be glad to hear.
Father? Fada. F-A-D-D-A.
First of all, I think that, you know, the reality of the show was good to me. The reality of the movie, dealing with the sexual thing. I mean, you can't talk about a sex strike not dealing with sex in it. It would be a little bizarre. But the language and the rest, I think, was, if they had changed that, the accusation would have been, oh, this wasn't real. This was sanitized. I thought it was the raw reality of the movie. And I thought it dealt with the realness of the situation. You know, I laughed at parts in it last night. I cried at parts in it last night. And I was angry at the end of this issue. I mean, I thought some scenes just took me over. I was telling Nick this morning that scene at the end with the mothers. It just left me angry that this reality is still going on in our city, in our country. So I didn't have a problem with that. You know, I was twice asked last night, well, you're a Catholic priest, how did you feel there sitting at that? I live in the real world. This is America, and I wasn't always a priest.
Sir, to answer your question, the purpose of satire is to address serious subject matters. It's a different approach. I know I've said this many times, ladies and gentlemen, so please forgive me, it's redundant, but Stanley Kubrick is one of my favorite filmmakers. And there's several homages to Dr. Strangelove, the character that the who's in his Stars and Bars briefs. His character's name is General King Kong. That's a direct reference to Dr. Strangelove. What is more serious than the destruction of this God's planet? But that film is hilarious. So I really can understand this mindset that you can have different tones, that you can laugh, cry in a single form of art. Why does it have to be one thing? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And I don't, and I'll make,
I'm sorry, I guess my question wasn't really that it wasn't valid, but were you worried about how audiences...
No. Not
Well, I
worried.
can answer that too. I had some brothers there from the block last night that I brought, and
The block.
and one of them, who's facing a court case right now, which might be sending him to prison, said to me afterwards, and I won't use the language, but he said, "I wish I had seen this 2 years ago." And they encouraged me that we're going, on the opening weekend, we're going to take about 40 brothers together from different groups to go see it on December 4th weekend and come back and then talk about it. So they said, we got to get more brothers to see this.
And to piggyback on my father, that when Kevin and I got together, that was the goal of this film. I'm going to start the chronology, and you can finish it. But Kevin and I worked together. He did this funny ass mockumentary called CSA, Confederate States of America, with the premise: where would we be today in modern America if the Confederacy had won the Civil War? So I presented the film, and we became friends. He's a professor at University of Kansas. Jayhawk, I'm a professor of film at NYU, both filmmakers. And he said, did I ask you, do you have a script? What
Yeah,
happened?
you asked if I had anything else.
And what'd you say?
So yeah, I have this, this little thing called, at that time it was called Gotta Give It Up.
Right. Keep going.
And, based on the Lystrata play. And, I was in the play in undergrad a long time ago. And the translation, there's a Southern kind of translation to Lystrata. And it really spoke to African Americans. And just the whole idea of a sex strike. In the play, women go on a sex strike to stop war. I thought it clearly, connected to gang violence, and so Spike read it at that time, and that's how the whole ball started rolling. This was actually,
6 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And who do we have readings for?
We had readings for DreamWorks, and I think we went to pretty much every major studio in the.
Well, we had another reading, all right?
Yeah, we had 2 readings for DreamWorks. And
Two for DreamWorks?
Two for DreamWorks, yeah. And,
So we couldn't get it done. And I'm active on my social media. And I have an artist friend, his name is Agent Franks. So every time an African American got killed by a private citizen, a white private citizen, or a cop, he would do a portrait, and I would post it on my social media. And every time I posted something, I get comments from people from Chicago saying, "What about us? What about us? What about us?" And that made me start to think. And I called Kevin and said, I hope you did not sell that script. And what'd you say?
I said, no, I've been holding on to it,
I said, we got to write it together. Let's do a new version. Here's the key. Because the first one was a nondescript urban area.
Right.
And I said, Kevin, we have to have this take place on the south side of Chicago and call it Chi Raq. And so I think that gave it a foundation, you might say.
Yes.
And by choosing Chicago, we felt that it would really address what's happening. And as we say, if people saw the movie, the scene with Angela Bassett, she said, this is not just happening in Chicago. She mentions Philadelphia, which is Philadelphia, Bodymore, Murderland, which homicide is skyrocketed, Baltimore, Maryland, and Brooklyn, Bucktown. So we acknowledge that this problem has happened in all America's, all the cities, urban areas in this country. But Chicago, if we want to deal with this, we have to deal with where it's most prevalent. And this is not something, I know people in Chicago are very sensitive about this, but the truth is the truth. This Chicago is the murder capital of the United States of America. Chicago is the mass murder capital of the United States of America. New York City has 3 times the population of Chicago, yet Chicago has more homicides than New York. That's not me saying that, that's the motherfucking truth. So if you don't like it, do something to change those numbers. And also, we did not make up the term Chi Raq. That wasn't us. That was your fellow local Chicago rappers from the South and West Side came with that term, not us. So it's unfortunate that a lot of angst and dialogue was really distraction. It's like I'm a sports fan. It's like the misdirection playing football. You fake it this way, and you run this way to tackle the guy. The guy's going down 80 yards to the house. So let's, if we can, let's focus on what's important and not get distracted about whether the mayor liked the title or not. That's not important, in my opinion.
Well, in the debates, when you mention the other candidate, you get to speak out, right? So you reference the mayor. I get 60 seconds, right?
DB, you got the mic. Go for what you know, baby. Go for what you know.
I thought it was extremely silly. A lot of people asked me if I was playing Rom. Spike never said to me, we're doing this to get at Rom or anything like that. But I personally thought it was incredibly silly that we had politicians criticizing Spike Lee coming to their town to make a movie. I mean, this guy is a one-man African-American jobs program. I mean, he got more jobs for young brothers and sisters on the South Side last summer than any alderman I know about.
Oh.
And I think that,
What's the alderman's names?
And the other thing is, these guys were threatening to withhold the film fund, the film incentives that every city needs to have, and these incentives are so important to towns. And you could ask people in Albuquerque. Breaking Bad went off the air 2 years ago. People fly into Albuquerque, which is probably the worst city in America of any note, and they go on Breaking Bad tours. They go around to see where they made crystal meth. So there's hotel rooms, there's lunches being bought. They actually have Breaking Bad tours. So I assure you that 2 years from now, somebody, or maybe a lot of people, are going to fly into Chicago, buy a hotel room, go down to the South Side to see the Armory we filmed in. And along the way, they're going to buy lunch, they're going to spend money, and there's an economic stimulus that comes from films and TV that cannot be underestimated. But I would ask all the aldermen in question to go see the movie, because nobody's judging a book by its cover is sort of the first thing they teach you in school. Is kind of a bad idea.
I also, and I'll just jump in because I'm not the mayor, but I played a priest. And I will say that when I was making High Fidelity in Chicago, where I brought films to Chicago, I had an English director named Stephen Frears, and we took the book that was set in England and we transported it here. Mm-hmm. And no one said to me, well, why is it not a Chicago filmmaker? I said, okay, so I can only make the movie with Harold Ramis? And, we hired, this movie hired great local Chicago actors. It was the first film that had an open casting audition for the people of St. Sabina. I think the Chicago Film Office said, Southside said it's never been happened before. And when I made High Fidelity, Jack Black wasn't from Chicago, and I didn't take any shit. So I don't understand. I thought it was kind of a jive issue.
First of all, the aldermen are Alderman Moore and Alderman Burns. Those were your bootlickers.
Just what?
Your aldermen, Alderman Moore and Alderman Burns. Those were the bootlickers.
I can't say it.
You already did. I'm Mark Conkle from DNAinfo.com.
I want to thank you because what you guys do, I know a lot of numbers try to get suppressed, but you guys had the numbers, and so we made many references to your research of the numbers, people wounded, people shot every weekend. So I want to say you do a great service for getting the word out.
And I think you deserve a lot of credit for making this movie in Chicago, and I think that it's important that a national audience sees what's actually happening, because they're not going to read the local papers, they're not going to look at what's happening in certain neighborhoods. So credit for that. This question is for you and John Cusack. I'd like to know what you think about the end of the movie, where there was this magical solution of the Fortune 400 companies and the new hospitals, and there's a lot of focus on what the problem is, and not a lot of focus on the solution. And one of the things I've been writing about for a few years is The Tale of Two Cities, which you've mentioned before in other interviews. And I just want to know, movie aside, because really it's just a movie. It's not journalism. It's it's a statement in some ways, but it's just a movie. But your thoughts on the solution and the need to bring the two Chicagos together, because I don't think that without rich white Chicago and its very powerful mayor, that a lot good can come without it, just with the neighborhoods and Father Pfleger, who I've written about for 15, 20 years now.
I'm going to refer.
I'd like to know what you have to say. I know what he has to say.
But I'm not from Chicago.
I know,
so
that's exactly the point. You've been very angry.
I'm not a politician.
You've been very angry, and you've been very defensive about this is what's wrong with Chicago. That's why we're here. I just want to know, when it comes to solutions, what your thoughts are on that.
Sir, here's the thing. What you're talking to me is the same thing I was criticized for Do the Right Thing back in 1989.
I'm not criticizing you. I'm just interested.
Let me finish, Mr. DNA. People who come to this film for solutions are get the same answer when it came to do the right thing. And Spike Lee can tell me how we in prejudice and racism in this country. The goal of this film was to put the spotlight on this problem, and through dialogue, discussion, maybe some legislation, we can arrive at the answers. But anyone that's coming to this film to think that Spike Lee says if you do A, B, C, D, E, F, then the ills and woes of Chicago will be fixed.
I think you're misunderstanding my question.
Well,
I just kind of like
rephrase the question.
I would just kind of like your personal thoughts on maybe, and John also, because you're a Chicagoan.
You should ask Father Pfleger that. He's the guy that can answer that question.
We've spoken lots of times, believe me. And I would just like to know, you're going to go back to New York. This is a problem in America. I would just like to know what Spike Lee thinks, and John, what you think about what these areas that were destroyed by politicians, banks, governments for decades and generations, maybe what you think it needs. I know that you pointed out what's wrong, and I agree, and I'm glad that you're here doing the movie, put a lot of people to work, but just your personal thoughts on that.
You want me to take it?
Take it, John.
All right. Well, I think in the tradition of satires, if you think of films like Network, Strangelove, Putney Swope, or whatever. I made one called War Inc. It's a very difficult thing to do. Both the problems and the solutions are mixed together, and you have to pay attention because you'll hear it. So you'll see Sister Helen talking about the fact that we are all looking at these all day and tweeting and doing this stuff, right? That's desensitizing. She says we need to read more, right? Father Pfleger, or Father Corrigan, Father Pfleger, says you cannot talk about justice unless you have the economic component, unless you talk about jobs, unless you address the hopelessness. You have other characters talking about seeing that you have young men and women who haven't had fathers and haven't had mothers and have had broken families. So the solutions and the questions are all wrapped up around, but there are enough solutions. But I think one of the things that I hear from Father Pfleger in church each week, and I'm sure is repeated in mosques and synagogues and churches of all denominations all through the country, is if the local communities who are taking back sort of their communities block by block. I don't know if we can look at Washington and the top down. I don't think the corporations do anything unless people are mobilized and hit the streets. So if there's enough people who care and enough people who are willing to take action, then things will change. But there's no soundbite answer to the question. But I think you also have to say 3 letters that nobody wants to talk about because they're a very powerful lobby, but NRA. You're not going to solve the issue until you talk about where the guns are coming in, and then you have to talk. There's too much to talk about in the soundbite, so I could probably go on for half an hour and look like a fool.
He could too.
Yeah, I have a question for Nick Cannon. I'm Sergio Menz from IndieWire.com. In your performance, I sense a sort of almost joy, because you have an image of being a clean-cut, nice guy. And nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it at all.
Yeah, according to some people here in Chicago.
But you play a character so unlike anything we've ever seen you done before. And I wanted to know, what was it like getting into that role? How did you prepare for it?
I did.
And how much fun it was to play something like
that? I wouldn't necessarily say it was fun, but it was definitely a task and a challenge to embody someone, one that obviously, the world may have not seen me do before, but the seriousness in what was going on and really connecting into that authenticity. And I thank Spike and Father Michael Pfleger for introducing me to real people in the community and getting the opportunity to hear stories of pain and from both sides, to speak to the victims and the victims' family, but at the same time to speak to a lot of these troubled young men who lack guidance, who are actually crying out. And honestly, I always say, hurt people hurt people. and to know that this community and communities all across the country are hurt. And because these young men don't have the proper guidance, and so many things have been sensationalized, and the building up the male ego, and the power in being what they call a savage, or the misconception of what a soldier is. You know, these things have been, conditioned in our community that have created these young men who are going down the path the wrong way, and you can relate sometimes, because really if you don't have the guidance, if you don't have a father, you can easily get misguided by the things that seem fascinating to you, the money, the cars, the women. And for me, I tapped into that. I tapped into that idea of like, man, this is just a young brother who's troubled, who's searching, who is crying out, and who he thinks is doing the right thing and thinks he's following his father's footsteps, but then he realizes that his father was also lost, and his father was searching for guidance.
That's why we put in that flashback scene too. Because I just cut in because so often in films we have black people just doing crazy shit for no other reason.
Right.
Just like it's pathological. We felt it was important to have some background. How did Demetrius become Chi Raq?
Yeah.
And we had that flashback scene when he walks in on his mother. That was there for a reason.
Right. And so to take that journey, and I mean to tap into, these stories that I heard from the south side and the west side of Chicago, and these people telling me what it's like, and actually getting that opportunity to spend time with the peacekeepers and to hear their stories, which are so phenomenal and remarkable, and to see what they've overcome, and that these are just young brothers that they want to do what's right, and they actually focus on humanity, but at the same time, it's really, it can be misguided. It takes them a while to get to that journey, but to see that journey is also pretty compelling.
Brian Tellerico, RogerEbert.com. I was 13 when Do the Right Thing came out, so I was busy seeing Batman that opening weekend. But I
You weren't the only one.
But I heard Fight the Power. And I remember thinking, what is this? What is this about? And then I started reading Roger's reviews of the film and the press, and I went and saw it, and I saw that opening scene with Fight the Power. And then I saw this and that opening scene with Pray for My City, which I think is such a powerful song. So I want to talk to you, Nick and Spike, about how that song came to be, what it means to the film, its creation, and all of that.
I'm gonna let Nick take it, but I didn't even know he went to the studio to do this. He said he just said play this. I said, what the fuck is this?
Now, honestly, that to get into the character, and I really became a part of the community in so many different ways, and again, to the credit of the peacekeepers that these gentlemen introduced me to, who are really part of not only the block in the city in a real way, but also the music community. So they started to introduce me to a lot of these hungry, young up-and-coming rappers in Chicago. And through the process...
Producers too, right?
Yeah, and the producers too. And during the process of doing, we were supposed to do one song for the movie that I performed. It was actually called My City. Mm-hmm. And we did that song first. And it was like a room of like the hottest, realest, rawest rappers in Chicago. And everybody, trying to get on. And really trying to make, and there was this one brother by the name of Hypno Carlito. He's like, man, I know we in here making all of this drill music, but I got a message he's like, I really live this, and I love my city, and we need prayer. And he was just talking. I was like, yo, we got to let's get in the booth. Let's talk. And, to have a room full of these, young, powerful minds, and to really say what's true to the message. That's how that song came about. Now, we didn't know if Spike was going to like it. We didn't know but it was just really helping me get into character, and at the same time, allow them to get their voice heard. I was just trying to give them an opportunity to say something positive about their city, truly from them. And, it's so many powerful words, but even that statement, it's like, and y'all mad because I don't call it Chicago, but I don't live in no fucking Chicago. I live in Chi Raq. And that was in that conversation to really saying everybody's mad about, because we not saying I don't know that life. I don't know the downtown life. I know this life. And I love this life because this is all I know. And to hear them say that, it's like, it's so powerful. So when I had the opportunity to say, yo, we made this, Spike was like, give me that. And from there, he took it and ran with it.
Spike, Janet Davies, ABC7.
Hello.
Once it opens December 4th, are any of the production companies involved planning on taking some of the box office and donating that back here to Chicago to anti-violence programs? Has any of that been discussed?
No. Amazon is going to do something, but I can't say what it is. But there will, hopefully, God willing.
I just want to ask. Okay. I was curious. After the opening scenes of the film, pretty much all the violence is kept off screen for the rest of the film. And I was just curious about the decision to do that. Obviously, you have like the shootout and the concert at the very beginning, but then after that, it's basically all off screen, what little there is. And I was just curious the decision to go that way.
That's what we wanted to do.
Okay.
And as well, I think that, from the very beginning, Spike never wanted to really glorify thug culture or violence. And as well, the Greeks always did violence off stage. Right. And so we really stayed in that tradition of that as well, I think.
Spike, will you make another movie in Chicago?
Yeah, they have me.
Thank you.
It's the city of Chi Raq, and get your bed made.
Do you want justice?
Please pray for my city. Too much hate in my city. Too many heartaches in my city. But I got faith in my city. This Chi Raq and I love that. You can't take it away from my city. Some can't relate to my city. They die every day in my city.